So, there was a question here, and of course, not only is this, like I said, like the previous question, relevant to our time as far as in our context, but this is kind of relevant to the month that we're in. A few people wanting to get an idea as far as maybe what would be a stance to have pertaining to Halloween and viewing that specific day. There are a lot of things that kind of surround that day, of course, where the day has been used for negative, and some of those negative connotations kind of maybe steer people away from the day specifically based on certain convictions. So what should Christians, what should the Christian response be to Halloween? Shouldn't Christians stay away from a holiday that essentially idolizes death in the occult world?
So we'll post an article after this. Remind me to do this. We'll post an article. I believe American Vision did it years ago on the origins of
James Jordan,
Hallows Eve, and just to give some historical background, I will say at the start of this discussion, I think it's very, very important for us as Christians to firm up our commitments to God's standards of thinking and accusations and making claims, right? The internet today is just, it's too easy to see somebody make a claim and then just to say, oh, I guess it must be true. And you can do that with a number of examples, whether it's Christmas or Halloween, or even like a symbol like the tricetra. We get that all the time. People just see on the internet, oh, that's an occult symbol. You know, why are you guys using an occultic symbol as the symbol of your church? It's like, no, this is the tricetra. It's an ancient symbol from Christians regarding the Holy Trinity that was a symbol to try to express with a visual what Christians believe about one eternal being shared in essence by three distinct persons. Right. And people will say, well, that's an occult. I've seen pagans use that symbol, so therefore it's pagan. It's like we need to do our homework, brothers and sisters, and not make claims like that. But when it comes to Halloween, there is a particular origin of Halloween itself. It might surprise people to learn at least one other side of this story in terms of Christians actually using this day to mock evil. In other words, you have people saying this was like the devil worshiper holiday, or it's about the occult and blah, blah, blah. And there are people today that probably do celebrate Halloween or, in that kind of way as occultists with a fixation on death and those sorts of things. But actually, there's another story to this in terms of what Christians were doing when they were actually doing this. They were making a mockery of the evil spirits, laughing about them, like basically jumping on their heads.
Right.
And so I'd say let's be careful with our historical study.
Yeah.
The next thing I would say is we need to recognize what are closed hand issues. We've been talking about that a lot at church lately. Essential issues of the Christian faith that you give up everything to defend and believe and you don't move on. Sola Scriptura, the Trinity, justification through faith alone in Christ alone. But then there's other issues you're going to have an open hand with as a Christian. For example, the kid who dresses up like Buzz Lightyear to get Snickers bars and lollipops is not worshiping Satan. That's not his context. That's not his world, right? He's a 4-year-old kid dressed like Buzz or Buddy, and he's just trying to get some candy, right? It's got absolutely nothing to do with the devil. At least in the family that engages in like a trunk or treat or something like that, dressing like princesses or whatever the case may be. It's like this has nothing to do with Satan. And if there ever were some connection to demonic stuff with Halloween, the way that people are practicing it now in giving each other Snickers bars and Butterfingers has nothing to do with Satan whatsoever.
Right.
Is it possible for Christians to disrupt even, let's say that the pagans today are having a holiday where they worship Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden, and they have particular things they're doing around in this big celebration they're trying to have over these devils. And Christians decide to have a competing celebration to basically stamp it out. Would it be right 200 years from now to say, oh, this is just connected to the cabal, and all the, people make crazy claims like that. No, it wouldn't be right. Is it possible for Christians to outdo a celebration with our own and beat it? Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to take dominion over a festival and do it and do it in a way that's even better without having any connection to it whatsoever? I think that is definitely possible. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as Christians to be very, very careful about accusations, about connections. Everyone knows that famous video of that woman with the monster can. You know what I'm talking about? The famous video of the woman with the monster can? Look it up. Look it up. Look up Mark of the Beast monster can, and you'll see the famous video of this woman trying to...
The monster drink.
Yeah, monster drink.
Yes.
She is just going... I mean, she is going on a string of fallacious reasoning all the way through. Monster, the beast, unleash the beast, and this is the mark of the beast, and it's a 666. It's not 666. Your whole argument is bust because it's not 666, it's 666. That's what the text says. It's not 3 6s. It's literally 666. So there's just so much wrong with how Christians are trying to make connections that aren't really there, and we need to be so cautious about that. And hopefully that answers the question. I think we need to celebrate Christmas. My answer to that is, I feel sorry for you. Okay. But I'm going to do it to the glory of God and celebrate the incarnation, like the historic church has done. And I know there are Christians in history that didn't want to celebrate Christmas. It's like this. Loose hands. Loose hands with that. Don't fight. Don't create disunity. Don't separate from one another over these things. And certainly don't accuse a little Buzz Lightyear of practicing witchcraft or engaging in Satanism for